Hey everybody, this is me, the Undead Viking, and this is a card from Historical Conquest. Historical Conquest is a game for 2, 3, or 4 players in which each person is going to take on the role of a period of time in history. And during that period of time in history, they are going to have different events and actions and people and leaders and heroes and armies and what have you that they are going to use to populate the lands of the world. And along the way, they're going to be trying to increase the morale of this period of history, in which case then, once the morale is good enough, they'll then use their armies and their leaders and whatever, their conquerors, to try to attack the other players to reduce their morale, or possibly claim all of their lands for their own so then they can defeat them. You don't have to defeat the player through conflict, though. You can race each other to a certain morale victory. Like there's 3,000 points of morale, and the person that reaches that first will win the game. This was a game that I knew I was going to probably like because it was going to be educational, and I was going to be able to present this to my daughter, who is voracious with these types of games. Plus, I knew that after reading the rules, it's pretty straightforward, but it has a lot of deep decisions and gameplay behind it. So, knowing that my family and I were going to be able to enjoy it, I agreed to take a look at it, and sure enough, I had a lot of fun with it. So let me show you how the game is played. Shouldn't take very long, and we'll come back here and I'll talk a little bit more about Historical Conquest. Okay, so let's learn how to play Historical Conquest. I've gone ahead and set up 2 of the battle mats here. This one obviously is like a D-Day look to it. This is the Battle of Hastings. These are just what the designer made available to me. So just because that's what this is, that doesn't mean you're doing the Battle of Hastings. But they do look cool. I like the fact that they do kind of evoke the whole historical theme, if you will. Both of these have a counter for your morale, which is kind of like your points. Morale has a lot of different things that affect it. Mostly you're playing cards that increase it, and people will be attacking you that will decrease it. And I have set this up for 2 players, but you can play with more than 2, so just keep that in mind. You can't, one of the cool things about the morale that you have to keep in mind is that until you get to 800 morale, you can't attack. Basically, your armies, your people that will fight for you, they don't want to fight for you until you've shown that you can be a good enough leader, bolster the morale to that point. So keep that in mind. The first person to get to 3,000 morale does win the game. However, you can win through conquest by taking the other person's land. Keep that in mind, and I'll show you how the conquest works in here in just a little bit. You're going to have 2 decks of cards. You're going to have 1 deck, and this deck's going to have all of your events, your people, your armies, your leaders, your what have you. It's all going to be in that one. And then you're going to have another deck of cards that are going to be your land cards. I'll just show you your land cards really quick. And then you set these aside, and these have like the name of a country, and they'll say like where within the continent it is. And that's important because you're able to attack continent to continent. Basically if 2 countries are within the same continent. So if I have Russia and they had a China land, then those 2 lands could attack because they're in the same continent. It doesn't mean that you can't attack them otherwise, but you actually then have to have an explorer person that's with the attack, because the explorer actually goes out and finds lands and what have you. I'll show you those cards here in also a little bit. Anyway, so you have these, and and every card that you're going to get is going to have a little background information that they'll tell you. And also, it just says, has little things increase your strength by 700 unless Hitler, Stalin, or Lenin are in play. And then 5 cards can occupy this land. Normally 4 cards can occupy a land. Meaning, so they have little special rules. Here, let's just grab another one here. So here's Alaska. It's with a Native American army in Alaska, your strength increases by 1,000. So it has cool little things like that. And also, North American continent, it's a constitutional republic, things like that. And so, okay, they have a little factoid here. So, a population, 319, I think it says million. How much land it is. Capital, Washington, D.C., eligible for military. And so all these different, like, factoids, if you will, that you have. So it's just kind of neat little things, like, as far as that goes. So, and then, it's like, what is it? U.S. purchased Alaska, larger than Texas, California, and Montana combined, from Russia for $7.2 million. So, like, that was back in 1867. Quite the deal we got, if you will, if you're just going to go with sheer land space. But so the cool little things like that, and when you're playing the game, you have those little factoids. And then one of the things, like, I'll mention this a few times, when I played this with my daughter really likes card games. Like, she was always reading the cards, right? And she, after we got done playing, she would just go through each one, which I thought was awesome, because she was, like, learning. And I'll be fully admitting that I read through them as well, because I was learning as well. But anyway, regardless, so to begin the game, each person's going to take a land, and they're going to turn it over. And so, like, here, I actually put that right. So I have the Federal Republic of Germany, and I'll just take this one over here, and I'll turn it over. And they got New Zealand, and so, like, that's a South Pacific, and this would be Europe. And so especially this land strength increases by 500 unless a World War card is played in battle. So a little extra bonus there. And then each person's going to have 5 cards in their hand. I'm not going to grab those 5, I'm just going to grab these 5 just so I can show you how the game is played. Now, remember, you have to get your morale up to 800 before you can do any attacks. And you really can't do anything on the first round of the game. You're not allowed to do any interaction with the other players. You can't play event cards that hurt them. You can't do anything to kind of mess with them the first round. That's just basically so everybody can kind of build up their civilization and get rolling. So you'll notice that there's these spots for cards, and mind you, remember, you can have cards above, you can have up to 4, and then in case of Russia there's 5, but you can have up to 4 cards basically defending those locations. And when they're there, what they will do is they will combine their attacks and defense strengths and help you defend yourself against any attacks, or help you attack other places as well. You just place them up in a chain above it. That's all you do. And then this space, and for that matter, all these spaces are used for playing any cards you play as events or actions or things like that. They go over here. Some of these will just get played and get taken care of. Some will have ongoing effects, and you'll keep them over here. And this is just where your discard is. Now, the biggest thing is, on every given turn, you can basically place 3 cards at any time. Now, that can be placing them in, to places to protect your lands. They can be using explorers to find new lands, things like that. Playing cards for their abilities over here. But also, 3 cards could be your discards. So you could put like 2 cards into play and put 1 into discard. The reason you put 1 into discard is so you can draw more cards, because you're going to draw back up to 5 cards at the end of the round. And so, but remember, so you can't play 3 cards and then discard another 2, right, and draw all 5. But there's a lot of times when you're only keeping cards in your hand anyway, so just keep that in mind. Alright, so just looking at the cards we have here, we have Mary Elizabeth Bowser, and then here's, like, Special Bowser allows you to look at one opponent's hand per turn. Through reconnaissance, increase your attack by 400. King, I'm going to screw this up, Kamehameha, leader, stories of King, life have been preserved in chants and songs. In Hawaii's early history, each of the 8 major islands were at war under the command of several rulers. King united the islands under one crown, forever changing Hawaii's spiritual, social, and economical future. When King is in play, your morale points do not decrease when an opponent attacks you with an event card. So obviously a pretty cool. And then, so you have the attack value for them is 400. It's to the left, and to the right is their defense. Winston Churchill, and now I'm going to talk about this real quick. So, interrupt. A second armored card may permanently defend the land he occupies. 5 cards. Interrupt cards are just that. They're interrupts. Normally, you can only play cards on your turn. But so in this case, if somebody was attacking, you could interrupt it by saying, okay, but Winston Churchill is going to allow another army to defend. So that's something. And interrupts can be played, and their power can be used later. But when you have those out, then they know you have those abilities, right? So sometimes having an interrupt card and keeping it in your hand and waiting until a different time to use it will keep you on your toes, and like you'll get somebody to use up a card that they didn't want to because they won't get the effect of it. So here's an Explorer card. So Lewis and Clark, which is cool. I went to Lewis and Clark grade school, actually. But anyway, after this card is played, if a Native American card is placed in your civilization, immediately discover a new land. So there's like some synergy going on there. But when you play a card that has an Explorer card, you have the option of, like, you can play them over here, and then you have the option of discovering a new land and adding a land to your tableau, if you will. Now, you might be saying, well, why would I want to do that? Well, the thing is that after you get to the point where people are able to attack each other and do damage to each other, if you run out of lands, you lose. And so you want more out there, right? You want to occupy more land. The way to avoid being destroyed is to have more land, and because then there's more stuff that needs to be taken care of. However, in this case, you maybe not want to do that right away. You might want to keep that Explorer in your hand and not do that, because remember, the first round, you don't have to worry about it. But in this case, we want to play cards so we can play it. So remember, we had this. He was a good. A very good like general, or like the king, and he had good defense, so we could put that down. And so we have this card as well. So like the George Lemaitre, Reverend Monsignor Georges Lemaitre. I'm horrible at these things, but somebody I didn't even know about until I played this game. But his scientific allows you to force one opponent to discard one knowledge or technology card, and so here we have different things and having different abilities, and these decks are full. As I'll kind of go through this one, and I'll show you some other stuff. So that would be like maybe, and then I want to place another card down, and so we can always go ahead and it's but the land strength increases by 500 unless a World War card is played in battle. Well, we don't want to put our Winston Churchill card, because he is actually has a World War II under his attack and what have you, so we don't want to do that. So maybe we want to put down like her, because if through reconnaissance increase your attack by 400, and so we can go ahead and do that. Now we've played two cards, and we can go ahead, and you don't have to play the third card if you don't want to, but we might want to because whatever. Or if we could gamble on getting a Native American card, if we had Lewis and Clark, hopefully we give it, and that would allow us to discover a new land. But we could discard if we wanted to. Probably not going to, because we have. Now in this situation, we didn't have any times where we're putting these cards out there, but we didn't unfortunately increase our morale through any abilities. Let me show you some cards that will actually increase your morale. Now here are a couple of cards that increase morale. Now, so when you think about this though, and this actually makes sense, which is something I also thought was cool about the game, was that it actually okay, well, what would increase your morale? Well, it would be somebody that would be doing some sort of entertainment. In this case, like Charlie Chaplin. And here you have, and it's when you put him in, he doesn't really have, he's not the most beneficial as far as attacking or defense. But this one says increasing your morale by 100 points every turn until Chaplin is discarded, or until your morale reaches 2,000 points. So if you have a guy, if this was in our hand, we could just say we increase this to 100, and next turn it would go to 2, and so on and so forth, as long as they were in play. Something pretty cool. And then you have things like, well, here's Washington Irving. So a half-heartedly practicing law, Washington Irving, turn 2 is one true love, writing. Of course, obviously, this Legend of Sleepy Hollow, whatever. So here we have an American literature, somebody who's entertainment, somebody that people enjoyed, and so it's increase your morale by 200 and decrease all opponents' morale by 200 points when you put this into play. And so there's things like that that's how you get your morale up. And now remember, if you don't get your morale As soon as your morale is at 800, that's when you can actually start doing your attacks. And I did actually want to show you an army card. So, like, you might be saying, well, these don't seem like there's a lot of damage or whatever. But, like, obviously, you can have one army per land. And so here you have, like, the English army. It's like the dawn of the English army begins when William the Conqueror defeated the Celts in the Isle of Britain in 1066. So the English army increases your strength by 300 if it fights on behalf of the United Kingdom or an English leader. But you notice it's got 3,000 attack and 3,000 defense. So armies, obviously, are where it is at. And because they are so powerful, armies you can only have one army in each country, right? You can have 3 other cards, but you can only have that one army. So to attack, what you're going to have to be doing is you're going to have to be attacking, like I said, like something within your own continent, or you're going to have an explorer that's going to allow you to find that particular continent. So let me just see here real quick. I'm going to go and find, well, I'm cheating obviously here, but like, so like they have the United Kingdom over here. And, and if they, and I'm going to cheat once again, I'm going to dig through their deck, and I'm going to just find some cards. Now, the thing is that the combat's deterministic. You're going to see what they have, and you're going to see, like, what, like, how much, like, their attack and defense is. Now, people could have interrupt cards and things like that can mess with those things, but for the most part, you're going to know, or have a pretty good idea of whether or not you're going to win. So let's say they have Sir Francis Drake, and let me just find an army card for them that they would have in that location. And see, and what I like about this is that there are things where you will have like it's like you'll have to like populate your space with people like Charlie Chaplin just because you need the morale, but you knowing fully well that because they are not that powerful, you will not be able to like they're not going to help with the attack and defense of what is going on very well. So it's you're trying to balance this out either way, and trying to make sure that you don't like way too much with army or try or have too little with the morale. Alright, so I'm just going to give them the steel workers, which is an army, and so they have this. Alright, so on your turn you can attack twice, and every time you attack and succeed, your opponent loses 100 morale, and they also have to discard one of the cards on their thing. And if you discard all the way down to nothing, then you can go ahead and claim the other person's military or other person's land. And when you claim the other person's land, obviously then you increase your own power, but also you're trying, and they're down to 1, or maybe that was their only one. If there was their only one that was left, you would win the game because you took that last one. Well, however, there is something that you have to avoid. So let's say you attacked, but you only had your army, whatever, and you attacked. Well, then when you attacked, there's only one person that can claim it. If you don't claim it, you don't just get it. You actually have to claim it. So if you claim the land, you're actually then leaving your home, your like the spot up for grabs. And so if they had another country within Europe, because it's Germany, then they would be able to use that to attack and then claim it and take it away. So you always want to make sure you have something defending your spot. Even if it's just one card, it prevents them just from taking it outright. And remember, even if they don't have a Europe, if they can get an explorer can come over and find it and take it as well. So you want to make sure you protect against those types of things. So a lot of what this game is, it's about building up your defenses and trying to ward off your attacks, but also seizing the moment when the other person is weak so you can claim them. Now, a lot of times you'll be in situations where, like, if you don't attack, because remember they lose 100 morale if they lose a battle. If you don't attack, you're just going to be watching the other person climbing up to like 3,000. So you're going to have to. But there are other ways that you can affect it, and that's through event cards. So here are a couple of sample event cards I can just show you, and these are different things. And remember, these will be played over here. They aren't added to the lands. So like here, one opponent must discard all knowledge and technology cards in play, and so then they would lose whatever bonuses they have for them. And here's one that just can help yourself out, where it adds a new land to your civilization when you play the event without having. And then obviously that would be your first card you play. You turn a land over, and then you could use your other 2 actions to fill that up and to protect it. Remember, you never want to leave one of your lands unprotected, because obviously then somebody can swoop in and take it. Now, this is one of those games where as you play it, you start to learn your deck, and you start to understand what they do and how those decks work. And you definitely can go through, and you can go through each deck and find the different keywords that are going to help them. Because there's like those cards that said, like, as long as it doesn't have a world war, it's this. If it has this, that, and the other thing. If Native Americans, like that one card. Stuff like that you can go through, and you can definitely create a deck that like suits your style of play. And there's a lot of different decks and deck combinations out there. And like I said, this was one of those games where the rules were pretty straightforward, but I found myself enjoying the story, but also just enjoying reading the cards and enjoying reading the history. And the most fun part about it, obviously for me, was watching my daughter just reading those cards and like the interesting factoids or what have you, that were really grabbing her, and it's like, oh, I didn't know this, and of course, her being 10. She started sharing those with anybody who would listen, her grandparents, her friends, her teacher, that have you, and I liked that. I liked that fact that not only was I kind of preying upon her her gamer roots, her Pokemon roots, but I was actually teaching her things at the same time. So, but let me talk more about that and the game itself in my final thoughts. All right, so as I said, these are the starter boxes that I use that I showed. I showed you the Templar Knights and the Nikola Tesla starter decks, but there's tons of these decks, and there's tons of add-on decks that you can use to just, as I said, you can kind of create the deck or the period of time that you want to use to go one-on-one and see which one comes out on top. And I think that kind of leads into the whole thing that I really liked about it, the fact that you are having these different eras and what have you kind of, going at each other, and you get to kind of experiment, well, what if Charlie Chaplin fought William the Conqueror or things like that, and it kind of makes for fun little moments or whatever. And I do like the fact that there's things about it that just make sense, right? And as I said, the entertainers increase your morale, whereas but leaders in wartime were good at attack, but leaders in other period of tranquility and peace have different effects as well. So I liked how thematic the game worked as far as the different leaders and the different periods of time. Now, obviously, the biggest draw for me for this, as I said, well, first of all, the game's fun. It's just fun to kind of put the cards together and kind of have that mishmash of stuff and putting things together. It's oh, well, Nikola Tesla and Charlie Chaplin and Attila the Hun were hanging out one day. Things like that. I kind of I dig the absurdity of it a little bit, if you will. But the best part about it was the fact that obviously my daughter, taking these cards out and it's oh, and she's Homer, why would she ever, here's a picture of Homer, and not Homer Simpson, the guy who wrote the Odyssey and the Iliad. And so reading that and and having her kind of look at that and say, huh, who is this person? And then I would catch her actually Googling it and reading the Wikipedia entry for things like that. And plus there are people I'd never even known about, this Charles Abenel guy who was an explorer. I had no idea who that guy was, but here I know I got this little factoid, and it kind of spurs me to have some interest in it as well. And anytime that I can have something like that where it actually makes me interested, makes me excited about something, and makes me think about the game after I've left the game, not so much for the gameplay and for the fun that I have, but also the fact that it's teaching me something and making me open my mind up to other things, I really enjoy. And there's a lot of games out there that are, educational games or whatever, and like they are very boring. And it's like, oh, we're gonna teach you how to learn through this really, really dull game system that's just like tacked on to the educational process. And then you have games like this where it's like, oh, we're gonna teach you something, but along the way we're actually gonna have like a functional, I shouldn't even say functional, a enjoyable and fun game of head-to-head combat, which is something that I really like. And like I said, my daughter is a huge Pokemon player, so games like this really appeal to her. And when I can get her to like disconnect from her iPad and her phone and YouTube videos and whatever, and sit across the table for me for a half an hour, and I can enjoy some one-on-one time with her, and plus she's learning at the same time, that gets a huge 2 thumbs up from me. So there you go. That is Historical Conquest. If you have any questions about it, please ask away. I'd love to answer those as best as I can. As always, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video. And until next time, this is me telling you to have yourself one heck of an awesome day.